This might be the future of software. Walk into a shop and 15 minutes later, someone hands you a custom scheduling app for your personal trainer business, or a food label scanner tailored to your allergies, or a news app that summarizes the topics you care about. It's like Jiffy Lube, but for custom software. You might think, do people really want that? And why would you go to a coding shop when ChatGPT could just build the app on your laptop? After all, tech CEOs keep claiming AI will replace most software engineers in the next 12 to 18 months. But history tells a different story. One of the biggest technological innovations didn't replace workers in the way many people expected. Instead, it reinvented an entire industry and created more jobs than ever before. I'm not talking about software. I'm talking about cars. Because surprisingly, the two industries have a lot in common than you think. In the early days, cars were built by highly skilled craftsmen. They did so mostly by hand, all in one station. Tools and parts had to be constantly brought to them, which was slow and cumbersome. And many parts weren't standardized yet. Even ones made for the same model often needed manual adjustments and hammering before they could fit together. That meant every craftsman needed intimate knowledge of every aspect of car building. Training took a long time. Experienced workers were scarce. So cars were extremely expensive. Only wealthy people could afford them. And then came Henry Ford in 1913. Many people think Ford invented the assembly line. He didn't. Versions of assembly line has existed for centuries in places like shipyards and mills. Ford was specifically inspired by meatpacking factories. He used moving tracks and pulley systems to bring engines, frames, and parts to workers so that they could focus on building. This saved a lot of time, but it also meant each worker only needed to master one step of the building process. This significantly sped up training and made it easier to hire more workers. Ford also invested heavily in precision machines that could produce interchangeable parts, so that they could fit together without manual adjustment. Previously, the fastest craftsman could build a car in about 12 hours. Ford's assembly line cut that down to 93 minutes. But perhaps his greatest contribution wasn't any individual innovation, but all of them combined. In 1928, he opened the River Rouge complex near Detroit, the largest manufacturing facility in the world at the time. It had its own steel mills, glass plants, tire factory, powerhouse, and even an internal railroad system. Ford called this ore-to assembly, the ultimate vertical integration. Raw materials arrived by ship, and finished car rolled off every 49 seconds. Even the famous Model T color, Japan Black, was chosen because it dried fast enough to keep up with the assembly line. All of this slashed the price of a Model T by nearly 70%. In many ways, software today looks a lot like early handcrafted cars. You need highly skilled engineers to stitch together databases, interfaces, APIs, security systems, each piece made for a unique requirement. It's slow and expensive. But AI might just become the software equivalent of an assembly line. It can generate thousands of lines of database schema, user interfaces, and unit tests in seconds, automating repetitive typing that used to take days. Now it only takes hours. But doesn't that mean you don't need as many engineers for the same amount of work? So most of them will be out of a job soon. Not necessarily. And the car industry showed us why. You'd think once assembly lines allowed less experienced workers to build cars, all of those highly skilled craftsmen would get fired. But something else happened. As cars got cheaper, millions of people who could never afford a car suddenly wanted one. Ford couldn't scale production fast enough to meet that demand. So not only did he keep his old craftsmen, he needed to hire more. In fact, over the course of 2 decades, he nearly tripled wages, so that he could attract as many workers as possible. Economists call this demand expansion. Now, demand expansion is not guaranteed every time technology improves. Automatic telephone exchanges largely replaced phone operators. Word processors and computers dramatically reduced the need for typists. But in both of those cases, the technology met the need so completely that there wasn't much new demand waiting on the other side, like the millions of households that couldn't afford cars before. So the real question is there a huge demand for software that's being held back by cost? See, for decades, software costs tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Big projects can easily run into the millions, which means, in practice, only large companies can usually afford it. I know this because I spent years working at a software consulting firm. I cannot count the number of times I was approached by small business owners who wanted software tailored to their needs. A dentist who wanted a patient portal that's connected with other specialists. A restaurant owner who wanted inventory management built around seasonal ingredients and local suppliers. A personal trainer who wanted a holistic app to track physical progress, nutrition intake, and mental well-being. But almost every time, I had to watch them get disappointed by the price tag. The market for this unmet need is enormous. In 2025 alone, companies spend over $50 billion on custom software. By 2030, it's projected to reach more than $140 billion, with small and medium businesses among the fastest growing segments. Now, some of you might say, but don't small businesses already have cheap tools like WordPress, Airtable, Zapier, and other no-code, low-code app builders? Absolutely. Those platforms can be intuitive for some tech-savvy users, and they do lower the cost of software to some extent. But many people still run into what's called the 90-10 wall. A dentist might be able to build 90% of a patient portal using WordPress and Google Form, but when they need payment integration and security compliance, they still have to hire a professional. Not to mention, different businesses can have drastically different needs even within the same industry. One personal trainer may specialize in weight loss, while another focuses on strength training. Neither would want to change their business model to fit the software. They want the software to fit how they already work. Generic software simply doesn't offer that kind of customization and flexibility. So if AI can dramatically lower the cost of true custom software, millions of businesses will gladly become new customers. Now, most conversations about software demand stop at businesses. But there may be an even bigger market that almost nobody talks about. Regular people. See, people have been customizing digital experiences for decades. Avatars, filters, game mods, browser extensions. And recently, we started seeing early hints of something bigger. Remember the OpenClaw craze? At one point, it became so popular in China that people were lining up to get help installing and configuring it. All for a chance to have a custom AI assistant that could manage calendars, shop online, and automate tedious computer tasks. And OpenClaw wasn't even that good. It was unintuitive, unreliable, and full of security vulnerabilities. Imagine what happens when more of these tools become useful in other aspects of our lives. The market for consumer software could expand significantly, potentially rivaling business software. That's why I don't think the idea of a Jiffy Lube for software is nearly as far-fetched as it sounds. Maybe not literal storefronts on every corner. Some might be completely online, some might do occasional home visits. But the demand is definitely there. Okay, I know. I still haven't answered your biggest question. If AI can build apps, why wouldn't regular people just use AI directly instead of hiring a person or a coding shop? Well, let me ask you this, especially if you have a car. Do you change your own oil? Sure, some of you do, but most don't. Otherwise, Jiffy Lube wouldn't exist. And changing oil is far easier than building software. There are thousands of tutorials online for your exact car model. Yet, most people still pay someone else to do it for them. Maybe they don't have the right tools, maybe they don't want to make a mistake, or they simply don't want to spend their Saturday under a greasy car. Software is no different. Even if AI makes coding a lot easier, many people will still prefer a professional who can do it faster, better, and safer. Not to mention AI hallucination may never go away, so at some point, you still need human coders to fix the bugs. But there is an even deeper reason why people prefer hiring a professional. If I want a food label scanner for my allergies, I wouldn't trust a random AI. I'd want someone reputable, someone with experience building medical apps, to make sure the app won't end up harming me. If I want a budgeting app, I'd want someone with accounting experience. If I want a contract app, I'd want someone with legal experience. So not only will there be more demand for coders, there will be more demand for coders with domain expertise. Now, some of you hardcore engineers might still be thinking, I don't want to spend my whole career building budgeting apps. What if AI takes away all the fun and challenging parts of my job? Well, this might seem counterintuitive, but AI will likely create more technically challenging jobs too. In fact, something similar happened to the car industry. Like I said before, Ford didn't fire the craftsmen after he implemented the assembly line. But a lot of them still ended up quitting because they hated the repetitive work. But soon they found equally exciting opportunities, because the growth of the car industry also propelled the market for artisanal cars. In fact, the 1930s was widely considered the golden age of handcrafted automotive design. So some of the craftsmen did just that, while others moved into entirely new careers that were just as technical, if not more. The car factories needed tool and die makers to build precision equipment. They needed millwrights to install and maintain machinery. And they needed production engineers to design increasingly sophisticated assembly lines. As the industry matured, jobs became more technically challenging, not less. And we're already seeing this trend in software. Job postings has risen since 2023, especially senior engineering positions in AI companies. Because there's a growing need to build out compute infrastructures, integrated platforms, and cybersecurity systems. And there will be entirely new categories of careers that we can't even imagine yet, not only in tech, but also in other industries. Just like how the rise of cars supercharged constructions, logistics, hospitality, finance, and more. We might have ecologists who manage swarms of AI drones to survey and restore ecosystems. Doctors who use AI tools to diagnose and treat patients. Workflow engineers who redesign supply chains, classrooms, and governments around human-AI collaboration. Economists call this industrial specialization and diversification. Much like in nature, when an ecosystem matures, niches become more specialized, species become more diverse, and everything becomes more interconnected. Maybe that's the bigger lesson here. Disruptive technologies don't have to be destructive. When they are directed with care and intention, they can expand our economy and enrich our lives. Now, everything I have said so far still depends on one big assumption. AI has to first become good enough to make software drastically cheaper. And that is still very much an open question. Many software companies that have started using AI heavily have yet to see clear productivity gains. Some are even regretting it. Part of the challenge is technical. Current LLM architectures may have limitations that are much harder to overcome than many people assume. There are also systemic barriers that have nothing to do with AI itself. Check out my previous videos to learn more about these issues. And if you'd like to support my work and help my team rely less on ads and sponsors, there's a Patreon link in the description. No pressure. Thank you for being here.